Hey, Mia? Mia?
Yes.
Oh, a quick question. When I was going through it, I didn't understand your note, the one on positions requiring special attention with the first one, Dawn Anderson. If she is selected, one position will have a vacancy, it says.
Yeah, that's because
She applied for 3 and 5.
mm-hmm.
2. Okay, yeah, I gotcha.
Hey, Pamela, do we have the number for people to call in to listen to the meeting? I'm getting a couple texts from people saying they can't find it on the agenda. And I thought it was on there.
Yeah, Raj?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the notice here, and underneath the meeting date, January 21, it has members of the public can offer verbal comments by using the teleconference number. I think that's how they listen in without being on Zoom.
Okay. Let me try to send that to them and see if that works.
Yeah, there's a number and a participant code there.
Can you guys hear me okay? This is Kent.
Yes, we hear you quite well.
Good, good. I like most things, I come to my office like the first time in a while, and my webcam looked like it was working, and then of course I clicked the link and I'm like, oh, I don't even show up. So the effective thing is to unplug and replug, and then it worked. So
yeah, reboot. Yep.
Reboot.
You must be an expert IT guy.
Right, exactly. That's right. Please restart. Here are my detailed instructions. Turn off and turn on.
Well, I have been getting good reception for Zoom calls in my previous office space in the house, so I had to switch, and then now I can't get the lighting or anything else to work in here, but whatever.
We can hear you loud and clear, Raj. So
perfect. And thanks for being on the subcommittee with Ellie and I. We appreciate the help.
Oh no, yep. And you know, I realized it would have been better for me to come in the office and print all this stuff out and have it all laid out for me. I was doing it with multiple screens.
That was Ellie's approach. I did have a question for you. One of the candidates for the Lateral Forces Committee applied for structural engineer. I don't know if you know him, David Gaines.
I don't know him.
Okay, because he's not a structural engineer according to his resume. He's only a civil engineer. So
that would count him out.
Yeah, I'll bring it up when we talk about it. I just wanted to check and see if you knew him.
No.
I would suggest maybe exiting out of Outlook and Teams.
Hey, Barbara, this is Mia or Mike. Just a quick thought, and I can do it from my screen, I think. Do you want me to share the agenda for a couple minutes while we're still getting ready?
Sure, that'd be fine. I think we're waiting for Eric, and then we can.
He's just got here.
Oh, okay, great. So he'll be there right up. There he is. Okay, perfect.
Do you want me to share the agenda so people can see the contact info for just a minute?
Sure, that'd be a good idea. Yeah, we'll do that for a minute, and we'll let people get situated, and then we'll get started.
Barbara, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I just changed that so you can do that.
Yes, that should be good.
Okay, thanks. Let me do that real quick if I can here. Share screen. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, I think that's all they need to see.
Yes.
Well, that's good. And so for anybody who is listening in, we'll get started here in a minute. We want to make sure we got all the members ready to go. And we posted this information up on the screen so those can see it and call in if they want to call in.
Mike, thanks. That number worked. That phone
Good.
number worked, so perfect.
Okay, perfect.
Hey, and I have a question, Barbara. Someone on the line is asking me if the YouTube is up and running yet.
Yeah, it took me a little bit to get to it, but it is up.
Okay,
It's, yes,
Okay.
we're live on YouTube.
I'm not participating that way, so, but yes, it is working. Thank you.
Stream text is up and running as well for those that would like closed captioning.
Good.
Maybe we'll just give everybody a few more minutes.
Yeah.
One more question, Barbara.
Yes.
Raj is going to read in the conference call information. And is there any, you may want to chime in if there's anything different that he needs to add, okay?
I think its instructions will be the same. We have Lori as a moderator on the phone to assist with the queue, and that should be the only difference, but the instructions are still the same. Folks will still hit 1 and 0.
And Mia, would you like me to read in the first couple paragraphs of the agenda that refers to the Governor Newsom's orders and how the meeting's going to go, and then we'll do the roll call, and then Raj can take over?
I think Raj has got that in his info that he's reading in.
All
Yeah,
right, thank you.
okay.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, I'll briefly open and then we'll get started.
And I have an email from Katrina that YouTube is working on her end and the phone is working.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You think we're ready?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're all ready. Everybody's got their information together. So we'll go ahead and get started. So good morning, everybody. My name is Michael Nairman. I'm the Deputy Executive Director for the California Building Standards Commission. This is the California Building Standards Commission's Code Adoption Committee meeting. And I'll go ahead and do a roll call to get the members in place. Chair Commissioner Patel.
Here.
Commissioner Klausbruckner.
Here.
Commissioner Mikatin.
Here.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Here.
And Commissioner Santian.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here.
Thank you all. Okay, I think we're ready to go, Raj.
Thank you, Mike. And we do have a quorum for this meeting. I want to welcome everyone and thank you for attending today's California Building Standards Commission Code Adoption Subcommittee meeting. I'm Raj Patel, Chair of the Code Adoption Subcommittee. I'm calling this meeting to order. It is now 9:07 on January 21st, 2021. The Code Adoption Subcommittee will review, discuss, and make recommendations for the various positions on the 6 Code Advisory Committees. We'll also recommend a chair for each of the Code Advisory Committees. This meeting is being conducted virtually in accordance with Governor Newsom's executive orders N 29-20 and N 33-20, as well as recommendations from the California Department of Public Health. Today's meeting can be viewed on the CBSC YouTube channel, the link posted on the meeting agenda. I would like to remind the viewers there is a 45-second or so delay. Real-time closed captioning is available for today's meeting through the stream text link provided on the agenda. The stream text service provides a larger closed captioning screen and can be customized by the user. The public may provide comments on each agenda item by calling in on the teleconference number provided on the meeting agenda instructions, which are provided on the back page of the agenda. If you have difficulty with the phone system, please call the Building Standards Commission office at 916-263-0916. I will now read the phone instructions. All callers will begin in listen-only mode. If you wish to make a comment on a specific agenda item, please listen for the commission chair to ask for any comments from the public. At that time, please place yourself into the queue by pressing 1 and then 0 on your keypad. When you press 1 and then 0, you will hear the following message. You will be notified when the speaker is ready for your question. To withdraw your question, press 1 and then 0. When it is your turn to comment, you will hear, please ask your question after the tone. A tone will then sound and the caller will be in talk mode. The chair will continue through the call queue until there are no questions remaining. The commission will then proceed to the next agenda item. Please refrain from pressing 1 and 0 multiple times. Doing this toggles your position in and then back out of the call queue. Press the 1 and the 0 only once and wait to hear the notification to speak. If possible, please call from a landline using the telephone handset only. This enhances the commission's ability to hear your comments clearly. Calling from a speakerphone or a cell phone reduces the quality of the audio and makes it much harder for your comments to be heard clearly. We are meeting today because prior to each triennial code cycle, the commission reconstitutes the 6 standing code advisory committees in their entirety, appointing new members and chairpersons for each committee. In early November of 2020, a call for applications was distributed to our mailing list, and if applications were due December 4th of 2020. The California Building Standards Commission staff has reviewed and sorted the applications, creating the Code Advisory Committee applicant summary sheets that are available on the website and are linked to this agenda. This subcommittee has reviewed the applications and support documents, and today we will nominate candidates for each Code Advisory Committee. The results of today's meeting will be presented to the Commission at a public meeting scheduled for February 18th, 2021. At the February meeting, the Commission will formally appoint each Code Advisory Committee member and a chair for each Code Advisory Committee. As we move through the agenda, this subcommittee will discuss one Code Advisory Committee at a time. Each position on that committee and the applicants, nominations, and chair selection for that committee. Before we make a motion, we will open the phone line and take comments from the public. Then the subcommittee will restate each position's nomination, including the chair, and then take action. We will then move on to the next Code Advisory Committee and follow the same process. We will continue until nominations for each of the 6 Code Advisory Committees has been completed. At this point, are there any questions from my fellow subcommittee members before we start with item 2A, the Access Committee?
Yeah, this is Commissioner Sasaki. So reviewing the members from the previous term, I see that there are, for a given committee, there are more than one ex officios that are listed. For example, and this is the 2018-2020 committee members. For example, accessibility, there were 4 ex officios. Can we nominate more than one ex officio per group?
That is a good question. I did review the same thing for the ex officio members that applied this time around, and I've been on this subcommittee a couple of times. And we've had as many as 6 or more ex officio members. What I'd like to suggest this time is that in order to keep the committee size manageable, that we limit it to 2 ex officio subcommittee members, if everyone here is in agreement.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. So if there are no other questions, I'd like to call up agenda item 2A, which is the Accessibility Code Advisory Committee. And at this time, I would like to remind the public who are on the phone and wish to speak on item 2A, Accessibility Code Advisory Committee, to put yourself in the queue now by pressing 1 and 0. This item is open for subcommittee discussion. Individually, we'll be giving our recommendations for each position and discuss, including recommendations for a chair. In order to keep the committee size manageable, as I said, I'd like to suggest to the subcommittee that we limit ourselves to selecting only 2 ex officio members. I will give my recommendations first, and then I'll call on each commissioner, Commissioners Klaus Bruckner, Mikitin, Santian, and Sasaki, to then offer their recommendations. At that point, we can have our discussions. So if that's okay with the rest of the subcommittee, I'd like to start with 2A. And I'm looking at the position 1, which are the ex officio members. And I'd like to suggest and recommend Chris Adamson from UC Davis and Carol Barolo Loeffler from the Department of Public Health as the 2 ex officio members. Commissioner Klaus Bruckner, do you have any other recommendations?
No, I don't. No objection.
Commissioner Mikitin?
No, those are mine as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Santian?
I concur with your recommendations, Chair.
And Commissioner Sasaki?
Confer.
All right, thank you. So those 2 members are Chris Adamson and Carol Barolo Loeffler for ex officio. I'd like to move on to position 2, which is the Disability Advocate Visually Impaired member. And I'd suggest to the group Eugene Lozano Jr. Commissioner Klaus Bruckner?
Agree.
Commissioner Mikitin?
Agreed. Thank you.
Commissioner Santian?
Agree.
And Commissioner Sasaki?
Agree.
Thank you. That is Eugene Lozano for Disability Advocate Visually Impaired. Moving to position 3, which is Disability Advocate Hearing Impaired. We have only 1 candidate, so I'd like to recommend Dawn Anderson. Commissioner Klaus Bruckner?
I had a quick question. When that occurs, position 5, is there a contingency plan for that one?
No, At this point, I was going to leave that position vacant.
So I have no objection to Don Anderson on 3.
Okay. Commissioner Mickelton?
I would like to suggest Kudir Kumar Agrawal instead, who applied for mobility impaired, but I have a different member who also applied for this committee that I would like to put in that one when we get to it. So Sudhir Kumar Agrawal for hearing impaired.
Okay. Commissioner Santillan?
I agree with Don Anderson.
Okay. So at this point, since we have 2 candidates for the position, I'd like to open it up for discussion. Is there any discussion on the candidates?
This is Commissioner Mickelton, and I don't think we have a candidate here in the group, or I looked at other Code Advisory Committee candidates who had applied for other positions for somebody who either said that they had the personal experience of being hearing impaired or any particular expertise in that area in terms of codes or anything. And so I was suggesting Mr. Agrawal because he is also a mechanical engineer with experience in acoustics in schools and other buildings. So I thought he might have more specific insights for that particular hearing impaired slot.
I have a question for Commissioner Mickelton. Have you spoken to him and he's interested in that?
I have not, but I'm making the assumption, and maybe Commissioner Patel, you can give us some guidance here if there's any to follow, that if somebody is applying for a particular committee, such as access, whether it's acceptable to, I understand it is, to suggest somebody for a different slot within that. And of course, we would have to follow up with that person, I believe. Is that
I
correct?
apologize. Now I see he is already on item 4.
This is Commissioner Santillan. I just have a general question. Any individual that's appointed, that's accepted, I should say, on this committee, regardless of position, they have an opportunity to participate in the discussion, correct? Or is that they're not limited to the area that they are accepted? So if Mr. Sudhir Kumar Agrawal is accepted under the mobility impaired position, he's able to participate in and provide his expertise in the overall scheme of things, if you will.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, I didn't realize Mr. Agrawal has applied for a different position within the Access Code Advisory. That's why I asked Commissioner Mickelton that question.
So Commissioner, this question to Commissioner Mickelton, if we were to accept Mrs. Dawn Anderson under the hearing impaired and accept Mr. Sudhir Kumar Agrawal under the mobility, which would give us that position, would you be okay with that? Is that something you're open to?
Actually, it's complicated because there were 3 people in public member who I think all should be on the committee. And so I was going to propose, it's a little hard to do these one person at a time without sort of seeing the big structure of what each of us is proposing. But I was shifting a public member who actually has a mobility disability to the slot number 4, mobility impaired. So, but I felt like Mr. Agrawal was a good candidate, so I wanted to keep him. And then I have a public member for cognitive as well. So basically taking 2 other names from public member and relocating them, which is why I'm shifting Mr. Agrawal to hearing. Hope
I
that
would-
wasn't too difficult to follow.
I would fully support your concept and what we're trying to do, because as it's been pointed out, Mrs. Anderson is in 3 positions, and provided we can move people around that didn't necessarily apply for a position, I would fully support that, Commissioner Mickelton.
I have a question for Commissioner Mickelton. If we are putting Mr. Agarwal in 3, and we're moving 2 members of the public, 2 public members for 4 and 5, where does that leave Dawn Anderson?
I did not have a slot for her on this particular committee. I felt that looking in detail at the other applicants, that I had preferences for my suggestion, and she did also apply for 14 total, I believe, slots on different committees. So that's my answer.
Got it. Thank you.
Just as a matter of protocol through the chair, do we have to go through each individual one? Given
Yes.
the dynamic, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Patel. Yeah, I'd reviewed the application for Mr. Agarwal, and he isn't a licensed engineer, and he has been on our subcommittees or our code advisory committees previously. But I didn't notice what you noticed. I didn't notice that he had some background in acoustics that may help with this particular position. So I'd be supportive of that. Is there any further discussion on this side?
Well, I guess what I need to know from Eric is who from the public member is going to go into his suggestion for mobility impaired.
Right, so that was
And then the
Daniel.
public member, just so I get a understanding of it.
Sure, glad to tell you. Daniel Kaiser was going to be the mobility impaired, actually has a mobility disability, and is in does access advocacy and consulting. And then for the public member, I had Homer Mayel, who is a code consultant and previous building official for several different cities, so a lot of broad background. And just to complete the picture, Bill Zelmer, I had for cognitive, who is a Sutter Health architect. And, I don't think we had anybody who actually listed cognitive experience, but I know that at Sutter Health, there's a lot of work going on with health facility design for cognition and a lot of different types of disability considerations. So I thought he might be a good applicant for the cognitive. The closest I think that we have, I would say.
And did you have a committee that you thought Don Anderson was good for? I mean, she's obviously an incumbent on this committee in the past, but did you find a slot for Don in the other committees?
I did not. Right, I did not.
Okay.
Well, she applied for disability advocate and other titles in multiple.
Yeah, she
locations.
applied for disability advocate in, for example, BFO, building, fire, and other. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably going to defer to Commissioner Mickelton. I think he has experience and understanding of the different applicants, and so I'm probably going to defer to Commissioner Mickleton.
This is Commissioner Santillan. I also agree with the suggestion of Sudhir Kumar Agrawal for position number 3, hearing impaired.
So I had a comment, because Mr. Agrawal has applied for, I mean, this is like his number 8 choice. It's pretty low on his preference. Plumbing, electrical is, for example, his preferred choice. Shouldn't we keep Don Anderson and give Mr. Agrawal his higher priority choice if we can? Because usually when they're higher priority or higher ranking, if they're better motivated or more interested in that preference. For example, in the construction industry, in plumbing, electrical, mechanical, energy, Mr. Agrawal is, it's his second choice under construction industry.
I will
On this-
share with the rest of the committee that, the subcommittee, that you can serve on more than one committee. And that Mr. Agrawal is one of our more enthusiastic applicants, so he's applied for a lot of positions on a lot of the different advisory committees. For this particular advisory committee for access, it's his 7th choice, his 8th choice, his 9th choice. So he's on here a variety of times, so.
And I'll just point out, I just wanted to point out that, there are only 6 committees, obviously. And so these numbers of, 7th, 8th, 9th are not necessarily because it's so far down on his choices, but just that he had, multiple choices on, for example, on health facilities that sort of push them down. So I feel like there's lots of other opportunities as well for him. And I actually have suggested him for at least one other.
That's why I think maybe Don Anderson should be 3 and Mr. Agrawal has other priorities. I don't know. But I don't know the individuals. I've looked at their resumes. Commissioner Mickleton is much better suited to make that kind of suggestion than I am. So I will leave it ultimately to Commissioner Mickleton.
So at this point for position 3, do I get a consensus then that we're speaking about Sudhir Kumar Agrawal?
Yes.
Okay. So that's who we have for position 3. Then at this point, I'd like to move on to position 4, which is disability advocate, mobility impaired. We have a choice of Don Anderson. Commissioner Mickleton has also presented the idea of having Daniel Kaiser be on this. I'd support Daniel Kaiser. What do you think, Commissioner Flossbecker?
I'm in support of Commissioner Mickleton's choices.
Commissioner Mickleton?
The Daniel Kaiser.
Commissioner Santillan?
I support Daniel Kaiser for position number 4.
Commissioner Sasaki?
Daniel Kaiser.
Okay, so we have Daniel Kaiser for position 4, which is disability advocate, mobility impaired. Let's move on to number 5, disability access advocate, cognitive. At this point, we had one candidate, which was Don Anderson. Commissioner Mickleton, may I ask you who you suggested for number 5?
Yes, it was Bill Zelmer, who's with Sutter Health, as I described.
Okay, Commissioner Mickelson suggests Bill Zelmer. I would agree with that suggestion. Commissioner Klausbrecher,
Bill Zelmer.
Commissioner Santillan,
Agree, Bill Zelmer.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Bill Zelmer.
Okay, so for position 5, we have recommendation for Bill Zelmer. Moving to position 6, which is local government building official. We had 4 candidates. My recommendation is Brad Wungluck. What sayest thou, Commissioner Klausbrecher?
I agree with that choice.
Commissioner Mickelson,
I agree with that.
Commissioner Santillan,
Yes, I agree.
Commissioner Sasaki.
I agree.
Thank you. That's Brad Wungluck for position 6, which is local government building official. Position 7, construction industry. I suggest Michael Gibbons. Commissioner Klausbrecher,
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson,
I agree.
Commissioner Santillan,
Agree.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Agree.
Thank you. So for item 7, construction industry, we have Michael Gibbons. For position 8, architect, I recommend Jay Wisenant. Commissioner Klausbrecher,
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson,
Agree.
Commissioner Santillan,
Agree.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Agree.
Thank you. For position number 9, fire official, we had 1 applicant. However, they really qualified for ex officio and not fire official, so I do not have any candidates for this position to recommend. Commissioner Klausbrecher, do you have any candidates?
Not at this time. I spoke with Randy Metz and he didn't feel comfortable applying for that position. His passion was the building, fire, and other. And I think I contacted 1 other candidate and left a message, but I didn't heard back yet. So I might be able to come up with a candidate by the building standards commission meeting, by the next building standards commission meeting. But at this time, I do not have anybody.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
there were, this is Commissioner Sasaki, under BFO, there were 3 fire officials listed: Justin Beal, Stanley Fernandez, and Randall Metz. So, Commissioner Klaus Buckner already talked about Randy and reaching out to somebody else.
This is Commissioner Mickelson. I was going to suggest Justin Beal, although he only applied for building fire this time. He was actually on this committee previously, so he has experience with this, and I thought that he might be a good candidate
With your
from our
permission,
pool.
that sounds great. With your permission, I would like to contact him and then come back with some answers by the next Building Standards Commission meeting.
At this point, may I ask reach out to staff? Mike, did you hear anything from Justin Beal? Do you think he'd be interested in serving on this committee?
You know, when this came up originally, I emailed the 3 candidates and kind of explained in detail the issue we were having and requested that they, 2 things I asked them to do. One was consider applying for one of the other fire positions on other code advisories, including this one. And then also I asked them if they listen in during this meeting so that if there were questions or concerns that the committee members could ask questions of the applicants. Hopefully if they listened and they're listening in, then they can at least either let you know if it's something they'd be willing to consider or not. But I did not hear back from any of them. So I don't know for sure, the status of that.
Don't hold me to it. I contacted Randy, and as I said, Randy is very much passionate about building, fire, and other code advisory committees. And I believe I left a message for Stan Fernandez. But I think sometimes candidates wait out to see whether they get their first choice, so they don't get passed on because they've applied for a second choice. So I thought I would wait, and once this meeting is over, then contact the other fire code officials and any other fire code officials that haven't applied yet that I might think are good candidates after this meeting. And then, let Commissioner Patel know for the formal meeting where we present this to the entire Building Standards Commission to possibly suggest it then. We've done that in the past.
That sounds reasonable. And if the rest of the committee's okay, I think Commissioner McNitt, I think Justin Beal would be great. Hopefully he'll either call in because he's listening to our meeting and we're asking for help. Or in the meantime, maybe Commissioner Klausberger can reach out and see if we can convince him to join and then bring it to the larger committee at the next meeting. So at this point, is it okay if we keep a recommendation of leaving this vacant until we get more information?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So leaving position 9 fire official vacant at this point, I'm moving to number 10.
Commissioner Patel should be taking a vote that we're going to leave it empty. I apologize. I just don't know the process.
No, that's okay. I think what we're going to do is take a vote at the end after we get the public comment. We'll take action on all the names. At that point.
All right.
So for position 10, which is public member, we had a list of applicants. Suggestion for Commissioner Mickelson was Homer Mael. I would agree with that. Homer is a building official and very active in the accessibility enforcement community. So I would support a recommendation of Homer Mael. Commissioner Klausbrecher?
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson?
Agreed.
Commissioner Santillan?
Agree.
Commissioner Sasaki?
Agree.
Thank you. So I believe we have the 10 positions discussed. So my last question then would be for chair. My recommendation for chair of the Access Code Advisory Committee would be Jay Wiseman. What do you think, Commissioner Klausbrecher?
Agreed. He's the incumbent, and I haven't heard any objections to that.
From a staff's perspective, Jay's done an amazingly good job over the years, and I would love to have him as a chair.
Thank you for that, Mike. Yeah, I've listened into the meetings as well, and I think he does an excellent job. Commissioner Mickelson?
Agreed.
Commissioner Santillan?
Yes, I'm on board.
And Commissioner Sasaki?
Agree.
All right, thank you. So at this point, we've got our recommendation for the 10 members and the chair. We'll now summarize this position recommendation and the chair, which we've just done. Now what I'd like to do is go to the phones to hear from the public. So if you'd like to identify yourself, please clearly state your name and who you represent. Barbara, if you'd please check the phones for commenters on agenda item 2A. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
And as a reminder, on the phone, if you'd like to queue up, you will press 1, then 0 on the telephone keypad. We'll go to public comment from Ellen Owens. Please go ahead, the line is open.
Hello, this is Ellen Owens, and I'm the Associate Director of Design and Construction at the University of California, Office of the President, and we have nominated Chris Adamson for the Accessibility Committee, and we just wanted to reiterate our support of him as a candidate. I believe that the committee has now has nominated him very early in this discussion, but I just wanted to reiterate our support of him and our acknowledgement of his experience and the contributions we believe he'll make. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have public comment from the line of Bob Raymer. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Thank you. This is Bob Raymer with the California Building Industry Association. And we support all of these nominations. In particular, Carol, for the ex officio, she's been great to work with over the years. And in the construction industry, Michael Gibbons, architect, especially Jay, both of those individuals follow very closely what is going on at the national process with the Department of Justice and with the Federal Fair Housing Amendments Act under HUD. And that's always very critical information to have, you know, at the drop of a hat. So we're strongly supporting of all of these. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have public comment from the line of Justin Beal. The line is open. Please go ahead.
Good morning. This is Justin Beal. I heard my name as I was watching it on YouTube, and I just wanted to say I appreciate everybody's comments. However, having served on this committee in the past, I'm looking actually to really go onto the BFO committee. So I appreciate the consideration, but I did want to make sure that my feelings were made known to everybody. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And
Mr. Beal?
if you would like to queue up on the phone for public comments, you will press 1, then 0 on the telephone keypad. We have public comments from the line of Dawn Anderson. Please go ahead. The line is open.
Yes, my name is Dawn Anderson, and I wanted to just address some of the concerns the Commission has on selecting me as a representative of some of these communities. Is there an opportunity to share the concerns? I noticed that I was removed from all of these positions and then also all of the advisory committees.
Yes. Please go ahead.
I think Dawn is asking whether we have any specific objections to her since she was removed, Commissioner Patel.
No, we don't have any specific objections. And of course, Dawn has applied for some of the other committees, which we haven't got to at this point. So we have no specific objections to her, of course. And we're very appreciative that she applied for this position.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've served on this committee for years. I'm very active in the disabled community, and this is a regret, unfortunately, that I'm not able to participate in the committee. It sounds as though the members are deferring to a particular commissioner. I believe that I have the experience that's needed to represent the interests in all of the areas that I enumerated. So it would be helpful to know why I was deferred away from the code advisory committees. That would be helpful.
Chair, if you'd like, I can try to talk to that topic real quick.
Of course, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. Hi, Don, this is Mike. As I heard Commissioner Mickerton going through his rationale, he identified a couple of people who were specifically containing the considered issue, so the mobility impairment concept and the cognitive. And he selected people, I believe, that he thought had good experience in those areas. And I think that's the only thing I heard is that he thought these people fit well because of their experience and background.
And comparatively to my experience and background, I am fairly fluent in ASL and work closely with the deaf community.
Understood. And what I would say is because there are 6 committees, and I believe you may be selected for some of the other committees, that we would like for you to be involved in the Code Advisory Committee review process, but from a public member perspective, not as a voting member, but from a non-committee member. So I'd hope that you'd be involved in those committees, and I know you would be, and you can participate and add information from that perspective as well.
Well, and I also, this is Commissioner Sasaki, just scanning down the different committees. Dawn is listed under this position number 28, Disability Access Advocate for BFO, and she was my selection for that position.
Yes, Commissioner Patel. I also wanted
to just confirm that that would be a position that the committee would be interested in having me fulfill. I heard from Commissioner Minikin that that would not be one that he would recommend for me.
Well, this is Commissioner Patel. First of all, Dawn, I know you've been a very active member on a lot of our committees for the past several code cycles, and I'm very appreciative of all the work that you do. As you know, we have multiple candidates for different positions, and so it's never a slight on anyone that we don't choose that they're not qualified or they wouldn't do a good job. And I appreciate what Mike said, is to have you included in all the discussions. We hope you're going to participate in all the committees that you're interested in. I can't speak to what all the commissioners are going to do with related to the building, fire, and other, but I would encourage you to stay on the line and listen in. And like I said, I know you've applied for a number of committees, so when we get there, we'll be able to discuss those as well.
The only thing I would add for everybody's benefit is that this process is very complex, and we're each of us trying to create a constellation of people on each committee with a particular balance that we feel is right. And just like, with ranked choice voting that we had instituted here in Berkeley a few years ago, it has odd ways of working out numerically, and so that's part of what we're doing when we're trying to look at 30 or 35 different requests per committee and balance all of those. So somebody may wind up as the second choice in multiple locations, but not get elevated. Anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I was very proactive in applying and had all of my applications in line and on time. So I would appreciate any consideration for advisory committee.
Understood, and thank you, Don.
Thank you. And we have no one else in the queue for public comments at this time, so please continue.
Thank you, Barbara. So that concludes the public comment portion. I'm going to turn it back over to the Code Adoption Subcommittee and entertain a motion at this time to consider the nominations presented. Let me go over the names one last time. For positions of ex officio, position 1 was Chris Adamson and Carol Barolo Loeffler. For disability advocate position 2, we had Eugene Lozano Jr. For position 3, disability advocate hearing impaired, we had Sudhir Kumar Agrawal. For position 4, disability advocate mobility impaired, we have Daniel Kaiser. For position 5, disability access advocate cognitive, we had Bill Zelmer. For position 6, local government building official, we have Brad Wunluck. For position 7, construction industry, we have Michael Gibbons. For position 8, architect, we have Jay Wisenant. For position 9, we currently have vacant, which is the fire official. And for position 10, public member, we have Homer Mael. And for chair, we're recommending Jay Wiseman. So with that, I'd entertain a motion from the subcommittee.
Commissioner Sasaki moved to approve those candidates.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Commissioner Santillan seconds.
Thank you. We've been moved and seconded that the nominations presented are recommended. Is there any further discussion from the committee regarding this motion?
The only other thing I just wanted to point out, sort of as an aside, when Mr. Beal called in, it sounded like from the way he phrased it that he believed that he would not be in the running for the other committee if he said yes to this one, just from the way he phrased it. So I don't know if it's most appropriate for staff to follow up with him afterwards. I don't know if he's still listening and will call in if he's nominated later on in the morning. But I just wanted to point out that I think it would be good if somebody followed up. And my question is whether that's typically staff.
We can, I believe we can do that. That shouldn't be a problem. And if he's listening, he may call back in and clarify that too.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you for that comment. Any further discussion from the committee? Hearing none, we will now have a roll call vote.
Yes.
Commissioners in favor, please indicate by stating aye. Those opposed, please indicate by stating no. And if you're abstaining, please state this as well. Mike, would you please call the roll call vote?
Yes, sir. Okay, Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Klaus-Bruckner,
Aye.
Commissioner Mickelton,
Aye.
Commissioner Sasaki,
Aye.
and Commissioner Santian.
Aye.
Thank you. So unanimous vote.
Thank you. So we will now move on to item 2B, which is the Plumbing, Electrical, Mechanical, and Energy Code Advisory Subcommittee. At this time, I'd like to remind the public who are on the phone and wish to speak on item 2B, which is the Plumbing, Electrical, Mechanical, and Energy Code Advisory Committee, to put yourself in the queue now by pressing 1 and then 0. This item is open for subcommittee discussion. Once again, individually, we'll give our recommendations for each position, including recommending a chair. So I'd like to start with position 1, which is the ex officio, as we agreed that we would nominate only 2. So for position 11 ex officio, I suggest Fred Bachmiller from UC Irvine and Crystal Sujeski from the State Fire Marshal's Office. Commissioner Klaus-Bruckner.
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelton,
Agreed.
Commissioner Santillan,
Agree.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Agree.
Thank you. So for ex officio, we have Fred Bachmiller and Crystal Sujeski. Moving on to item 12, local government building official. My recommendation would be Brad Wungluck. Commissioner Klaus-Bruckner.
No objections. Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelton,
Agreed.
Commissioner Santillan.
Just a question, and I think you've already mentioned this, Mr. Chairman. Individuals can serve on multiple committees, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, I agree.
Thank you. Commissioner Sasaki.
Agree.
Thank you. So for item 12, position 12, local government building official, we have recommended Brad Wungluck. For position 13, environmental energy organization, my recommendation would be Michael Stone. Commissioner Klaus-Bruckner.
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelton,
Yes, that's mine as well. Agreed. Thank you.
Commissioner Santillan,
Agree.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Agree.
Thank you. So our recommendation for environmental energy organization, position 13 is Michael Stone. For position 14, construction industry, my recommendation would be Harry Moose. Commissioner Klausbrucker,
Agree.
Commissioner Mickelson,
I was recommending Heidi Walker.
okay. Thank you. Commissioner Santillan,
I agree with your recommendation of Harry Moose.
Commissioner Sasaki,
Harry Moose.
okay. I open up to discussion since we had 2 recommendations for this position. Is there any discussion?
I'm actually open to Mr. Moose. He was my second choice. So
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Mickelson. Any other discussion on this item? So do I see a consensus for position 14, construction industry, Harry Moose?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to position 15, architect. My recommendation is Jay Hyde. Commissioner Klausbrucker,
Agree.
Commissioner Mickelson,
agreed.
Commissioner Santillan,
Agree.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Agree.
Thank you. So we agreed to the recommendation of Jay Hyde for position 15, architect. Position 16 is fire official. Once again, we do not have a candidate applied. So I do not have a recommendation at this point for plumbing, electrical, mechanical, energy. Commissioner Klausbrucker,
My suggestion is to leave it empty like the previous one for the fire official in accessibility. And I will start contacting people and making the rounds before the next Building Standards Commission meeting. And hopefully I come up with a candidate.
thank you for that suggestion. Commissioner Mickelson,
I was going to suggest Randall Metz, who's the Carlsbad Fire Marshal. He applied for BFO, but just as we described earlier, there were, I believe, 3 fire officials who applied for BFO. And I thought that his experience could be applicable here. So certainly if Commissioner Klausbrucker is interested in reaching out, that's fine, but staff could also do that, or if he's on the phone, maybe he could speak up now or later.
Actually, I contacted him, and as I said, his passion is building fire other only.
Only, okay, thank you.
Yeah, he was uncomfortable with the topic or this, he just, there was a reason why he didn't apply for that, and his passion lies elsewhere. So I will have to make my round of calls and see if I can find someone. The gentleman that I made calls to, and at the last one that agreed to some of these positions moved to Germany. He used to work for the city of San Diego. So I have to start making calls and see if I can find someone that is interested in this position.
well, it certainly would be great if we could find somebody, and hopefully somebody's on the phone that's listening right now. Maybe Justin or maybe Stanley Fernandez. I think with what's happening in the industry as far as energy storage and electric vehicle charging and some of the other things, it'd be great to have a fire representative on this committee. So hopefully somebody's listening and will pipe in. Commissioner Santillan?
I think I asked, before we move any further, I think I asked the staff before I started making calls and I forget the answer and I apologize, whether third-party plan checkers who work for fire departments and building departments can apply for these, like if they are third-party companies that do represent fire departments. And I apologize for interrupting Commissioner Patel, but I need to, I had someone in mind if we do have someone.
I saw Mia looking for part one. She may be looking up some information related to that topic, so.
I apologize. I know we had a conversation. I think maybe we left it that.
Yeah. I unmuted myself. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I pulled out our part one regs, and currently it just states the term fire official. It doesn't clarify third party or anything like that. So unlike the BFO where we put a footnote a couple cycles back, we recognized that a lot of local jurisdictions were utilizing third party plan inspection and building official organizations. And so we clearly stated that. But for right now, fire official just says fire official. So that's kind of wide open. So
I apologize.
that's okay. No, and I don't really have a yes or no answer. It just says fire official. So yeah. The other trick here is oftentimes we have to be careful because a fire official might be hired by a local jurisdiction. However, they're paid for by CAL FIRE. So they're still a state government entity. So that's kind of a tricky thing there too. So
Definitely.
hope
I
that-
had someone very specific in mind that is really into energy storage systems
okay.
but they're third party plant checkers. They used to work for Orange County Fire, but they retired and they're now doing third party plant checking. Sorry.
And as we go through this process and we learn about these nuances as time goes on, we certainly can work on our part one regulations this cycle to include footnotes like that, because I know more and more jurisdictions are hiring out to third parties. So that's a possibility that if this committee thinks that would be something we want to look into for a future code change.
I would highly recommend that.
Okay.
I think that would be a good topic to follow up on as well.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
And this is Commissioner Mickelson on that same point. I think that for a slot like this one where we would have a vacancy, otherwise, that's a great idea. And I'm glad that this question was brought up because I actually had it in my mind for one of the other committees. And for that one, I made a selection on somebody. This is just a point of sort of general discussion for somebody who was a sort of regular employee fire official as opposed to or I think it was mechanical, actually, mechanical plan checker. I didn't feel like an outside mechanical plan checker was as much as a sort of official in the city dealing with the full range of issues that somebody who's actually an official is dealing with. So I put that person in a sort of second ranking. But again, I feel like for something where we have a vacancy, it's great to be able to draw from a wider pool. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this point, we were discussing the fire official position. Commissioner Santillan, any comments?
No, I have nothing to add to what's already been said.
Okay. Commissioner Sasaki?
No comment.
Okay. So at this point, we will hold that position vacant and hopefully we can find a candidate to recommend to the Greater Commission in February. So moving on to item 17, the public member or local water. My recommendation was Gail Bate. Commissioner Klausbacher,
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson,
Agreed.
Commissioner Santillan,
I agree.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Agree.
Thank you. So for item 17, public member, we have Gail Bate. For position 18, public plumbing inspector, I'm sorry. I was going to recommend Shane Peters. Commissioner Klausbacher,
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson,
Agreed.
Commissioner Santillan,
Yes, I agree.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Agree.
Thank you. So our recommendation for item 18, plumbing inspector, is Shane Peters. For position 19, mechanical engineer, my recommendation was Scott Wayland. Commissioner Klausbrucker.
Agree.
Commissioner Mickelson.
I had Robert Raymer, who is, we all know from a lot of participation in almost every one of our general hearings, who is also a mechanical engineer.
Thank you. Commissioner Santillan.
I agree with the recommendation of Scott Wayland.
Commissioner Sasaki.
The same for me.
Okay. So we had a couple of candidates for position 19 mechanical engineer. My recommendation was Scott Wayland. I would say Bob Raymer obviously is great, and he is a licensed mechanical engineer. In looking at the applications, I noticed Scott is a licensed engineer, but also was recommended by ASHRAE, which I think is pretty important because most of what the PME group does is related to the HVAC industry and some mechanical engineering. So that's why I was leaning towards Scott. Is there any other discussion?
Commissioner Mickelson, I made a note of that as well. I think that's relevant. And he has a tremendous amount of experience. He was my number 2, so I can agree with that.
Thank you, sir. So at this point, do we have a consensus for position 19 mechanical engineer Scott Wayland?
Yes.
Thank you. So moving on to position 20, electrical engineer or inspector, I would recommend Ron Takiguchi. Commissioner Klausbrucker.
Agree.
Commissioner Mickelson.
Agreed.
Commissioner Santillan.
Agreed.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Agree.
Thank you. So for position 20, electrical engineer or inspector, we have Ron Takiguchi as our recommendation. I would now like to bring up the chair, the position of chair. My recommendation would be Ron Takiguchi was the incumbent and the chair of last committee. Commissioner Klausbrucker.
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson.
Agreed.
Commissioner Santillan.
Yes, agreed.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Agree.
Thank you. So I'll now summarize the position recommendations and the chair for the Plumbing, Electrical, Mechanical, and Energy Code Advisory Committee. For position 11, ex officio, we had Fred Bachmiller and Crystal Sujeski. For local government building official, we have Brad Wungluck. For position 13, Environmental Energy Organization, Michael Stone. For position 14, Construction Industry, Terry Moose. For position 15, Architect, Jay Hyde. For position 16, Fire Official is vacant. For position 17, Public Member or Local Water, Gail Bate. For position 18, Plumbing Inspector, Shane Peters. For position 19, Mechanical Engineer, Scott Wayland. And for position 20, Electrical Engineer or Inspector, Ron Takiguchi. And recommendation for the chair is Ron Takiguchi. So now we'll go to the phones to hear from the public. If you'd like to identify yourself, please clearly state your name and who you represent. Barbara, if you'd please check the phones for commenters on agenda item 2B. Thank you.
Thank you. For a public comment on the phones, you can press 1, then 0 on your telephone keypad. Just waiting. We had someone in queue. I'm checking to see if they repopulate in the queue. Again, if you have public comment, you may press 1, then 0 on the telephone keypad. I have Bob Raymer in the queue. Bob, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Thank you. This is Bob Raymer with the California Building Industry Association. And we strongly support all of the nominations that you just made, including Scott Weiland for mechanical. My preference was the commercial slot on green building. And the factor is, while I'm good at mechanical and plumbing stuff, I'm not all that good at electrical. We especially like Michael Stone. He's currently helping industry and the Energy Commission try to figure out the panel size for electrical panels as we move to all electric homes with batteries in the garage, EVs in the garage, and solar on the roof. This is a major undertaking, and he's on top of all that. And of course, Harry Mose has been helping us out on plumbing, mechanical, and electrical issues for a very long time. So we're very supportive. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another public comment. Just a moment while we get their name. Thank you. We have a public comment from the line of Ellen Owens. Ellen, please go ahead. The line is open.
Hello, this is Ellen Owens with the University of California, Office of the President, and we also support all the candidates. And I did want to say that Fred Bachmiller for the ex officio, one of the ex officio positions, has our strong endorsement. He's a very experienced candidate, and we will believe he will continue to contribute as he has in the past. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no additional public comments at this time. Please continue.
Thank you, Barbara. So that concludes the public comment portion. I will turn it back over to the Code Adoption Subcommittee and entertain a motion at this time to consider the nominations that were presented.
Commissioner Mickelton, I make a motion to choose the slate that you listed.
Thank you, sir. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Klaus Berkner, second.
So it is moved and seconded that the nominations presented as recommendations to be approved. Is there any further discussion from the committee regarding the motion? Hearing none, we will now have a roll call vote. Commissioners in favor, please indicate by stating aye. Those opposed, please indicate by stating no. If abstaining, please state this as well. Mike, would you please call the roll call vote?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Klaus Berkner,
Aye.
Commissioner Mickelton,
Aye.
Commissioner Sasaki,
Aye.
and Commissioner Santian.
Aye.
Thank you. That's unanimous.
Thank you, Mike. At this point, I'd like to move on to agenda item 2C, which is the Building, Fire, and Other Code Advisory Committee. At this time,
Sorry, one moment. For our captioners, do we need to switch real quick? Are you guys good? Do you need a break or do I need to switch?
We can switch, please.
Thank you.
Give us a moment.
Natasha, do you have access for captioning now?
Yes, I'm ready. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I apologize to our captors. Thank you for reminding me. So at this time, I'd like to remind the public who are on the phone and wish to speak on item 2C, which is the Building, Fire, and Other Code Advisory Committee, to put yourself in the queue now by pressing 1 and then 0. This item is open for subcommittee discussion. Once again, individually, we'll give our recommendations for each position and discuss them, including recommending a chair. So for Building, Fire, and Other Code Advisory Committee, we'll start with position 21, which is ex officio. And I'd like to recommend Carl Neweth from UCLA and Crystal Sujeski from the State Fire Marshal. Commissioner Klausbuckner,
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson,
Agreed.
Commissioner Santillan,
Agreed.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Agree.
Thank you. So for ex officio position 21, our recommendations are Carl Neweth and Crystal Sujeski. For position 22, local government building official, I'd like to recommend Ara Sargassian. Commissioner Klausbuckner.
Agreed. Agreed.
Commissioner-
Sorry.
That's okay. Commissioner Mickelson,
Agreed.
Commissioner Santillan,
Agreed.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Agree.
Thank you. So we have consensus recommendation for position 22, local government building official, Ara Sargassian. Position 23, registered fire protection engineer. I'd like to recommend Cheryl Domnich. Commissioner Klausbuckner,
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson,
Agreed.
Commissioner Santillan,
Agreed.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Agree.
Thank you. So we have a consensus for position 23, registered fire protection engineer, Cheryl Domnich. For position 24, construction industry, I'd like to recommend David Tyree. Commissioner Klausbuckner,
Oh, David Tyree. Yes, agreed.
thank you. Commissioner Mickelson,
Agreed.
Commissioner Santillan,
Agreed.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Agree.
Thank you. So for position 24, construction industry, our recommendation is David Tyree. For position 25, architect, I'd like to recommend somebody very highly, Stephen Winkle. Commissioner Klausbuckner,
Wholeheartedly agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson,
Strongly agreed.
Commissioner Santillan.
Second, everything that's been said. Glad to have him back on board.
Thank you. Commissioner Sasaki,
Stupendously agree.
you outdid us all. So consensus for item 24, architect position, Stephen Winkle.
25, I think.
Oh, I apologize. Position 25, architect, Stephen Winkle. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Moving to position 26, commercial building industry. I'd like to recommend Christopher Ochoa. Commissioner Klausbuckner,
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson,
Agreed.
Commissioner Santillan,
Agreed.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Agree.
Thank you. So we have a consensus for position 26, commercial building industry, Christopher Ochoa. For position 27, fire official, I'd like to recommend Randall Metz. Commissioner Klausbuckner,
Agreed. He's a great candidate for that position.
Commissioner Mickelson,
Agreed.
Commissioner Santillan,
I agree.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Agree.
Thank you. So we have a consensus for position 27, fire official, Randall Metz. For position 28, disability access advocate, I'd like to recommend Don Anderson. Commissioner Klausbuckner,
I agree.
Commissioner Mickelson,
I had Mark Blanchett, who applied for public member, but I had David Walls, who's an incumbent and former BSC ED as the public member. So I was finding a place for Mark Blanchett, who's a walking safety consultant.
thank you. Commissioner Santillan,
I agree with the recommendation of Don Anderson.
Commissioner Sasaki,
Don Anderson.
Thank you. So we have multiple candidates for position 28 Disability Access Advocate. I'd like to open up for discussion.
I can agree with the consensus of Don Anderson.
Thank you, Commissioner Mickelton. So at this point, we have a consensus for position 28 Disability Access Advocate, Don Anderson. Position 29, Public Member. My recommendation was going to be Homer Mayel. I know we placed him on another committee, but I'll open that up. Commissioner Klausbruckner.
I was gonna suggest Mark Blanchett, but I'm okay with Homer Mayel as well.
Commissioner Mickelton.
As I mentioned, I had David Walls, who was instrumental in the creation of CalGreen and the former Building Standards Commission Executive Director.
Commissioner Santillan.
I also had David Walls, but this is not his priority. So I would go with the recommendation of Homer Mayel.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Well, given the fact that Homer is on one of the, which committee is he? He's on accessibility as a nominee, right? We
Correct.
put him as public member. I guess I had Gail Bate, who was an incumbent, but of a previous term, but on a different code advisory.
Yeah, he's on public member, item 17 for plumbing, electrical, mechanical. That's why I suggested Mark Blanchett, but I'm open to other suggestions.
But that was
And
that was on a previous term, right?
No, we just currently put him on the plumbing, electrical, mechanical.
Oh, we did. Okay, sorry. All right. Okay.
And I'd offer, I'm okay with Mark Blanchett as well. I mean, he had rank 1, and if other commissioners have faith in that, I'm good with that suggestion. So I'm willing to change to support Mark Blanchett.
Me too.
Okay. Do I hear a consensus then for public member Mark Blanchett?
I support that as well, Mr. Chairman.
I can support that.
Okay.
Commissioner Mixton.
Thank you. So then for position 29 public member, our recommendation would be Mark Blanchett. So finally, we need to choose a chair. My suggestion based on his experience would be Stephen Winkle. Commissioner Klausbruckner.
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelton.
Agreed.
Commissioner Santillan.
Yes, agree.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Agree.
Thank you. So for the Building, Fire, and Other Code Advisory Committee, for position 21 ex officio, I have Carl Newith and Crystal Sujeski. For position 22, Local Government Building Official, I have Ara Sargazian. For position 23, Registered Fire Protection Engineer, I have Cheryl Domnich. For position 24, Construction Industry, I have David Tyree. For position 25, Architect, I have Stephen Winkle. For position 26, Commercial Building Industry, I have Christopher Ochoa. For position 27, Fire Official, I have Randall Metz. For position 28, Disability Access Advocate, I have Don Anderson. For position 29, Public Member, I have Mark Blanchett. And for Chair, I have Stephen Winkle. So now we will go to the phones to hear from the public. If you'd like to identify yourself, please clearly state your name and who you represent. Barbara, if you'd please check the phones for commenters on agenda item 2C.
And I'll remind everyone that if you'd like to get into the queue, you will press 1, then 0 on the telephone keypad. First, we have public comment from the line of Ellen Owens. Please go ahead. The line is open.
Hello, I'm Ellen Owens with the University of California Office of the President. I want to thank the committee for taking such time to go through all the applications. The University of California does support all the applicants and recommended applicants, and we did want to restate our support of Carl Luce. He is a building official at UCLA, and he is the president of our UC System-Wide Council of Campus Building Officials. He's a certified building official and engineer, and we know his experience will be helpful, and he will bring that to bear in this position. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have public comment from the line of Mark Christian. Please go ahead. The line is open.
Thank you, committee members. Mark Christian with the American Institute of Architects, California. We are very supportive of the California Building Standards Commission and its various committees, the code advisory committees in particular. And we have always supported very well qualified architects for consideration for appointment to the various code advisory committees. And on this one, we were very pleased when Mr. Winkle indicated his desire to apply. We were very honored to be able to support him, and we are, of course, in complete agreement with this committee's recommendation that Mr. Winkle receive an appointment as the architect member and as the chair of this code advisory committee. Thank you.
Thank you. We have public comment from the line of Bob Raymer. Please go ahead. The line is open.
Thank you. This is Bob Raymer with the California Building Industry Association. And once again, we support all of the committee's nominees here, especially Steve Winkle. It's great to see him back on to working in these committee structure. And also David Tyree and Christopher Ochoa. Each of these individuals serve on no less than 8 of the fire marshal's task force right now dealing with wildfires, WUI, the A2L gas issue, and tallwood buildings. And so I think you're going to find this is going to be a great collection of individuals. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, again, if you'd like to join the queue on the phone, you may press 1, then 0 on the telephone keypad. Again, for public comments on the phone, you may press 1, then 0. I have no one queuing up on the phone for public comment, so please continue.
Thank you. So that concludes the public comment period. I will turn it back over to the Code Adoption Subcommittee and entertain a motion at this time to consider the nominations as presented.
Commissioner Sasaki moved to approve the slate of nominees.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second? Thank you. Is there any, it's been moved and seconded that the nominations presented are recommended. Is there any further discussion from the committee regarding this motion? Hearing none, we will now have a roll call vote. Commissioners in favor, please indicate by stating aye. Those opposed, please indicate by stating no. And if abstaining, please state this as well. Mike, would you please call the roll call vote?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Klaus Bruckner,
Aye.
Commissioner Mickelton,
Aye.
Commissioner Sasaki,
Aye.
and Commissioner Santian.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mike.
Thank you.
And if there's no other questions, we're going to move on to item 2D of the agenda. Agenda item 2D is for the Structural Design Lateral Force Code Advisory Committee. At this time, I'd like to remind the public who are on the phone and wish to speak on item 2D, the Structural Design Lateral Force Code Advisory Committee, to put yourself in the queue now by pressing 1 and then 0. This item is now open for subcommittee discussion. Once again, we'll give our individual recommendations and then open it up for discussion. So I'd like to start with the Structural Design Lateral Post Code Advisory Committee, position 30, ex officio, by recommending Eric Wolf. Commissioner Klausbacher,
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson,
Agreed.
Commissioner Santillan,
Agreed.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Agree.
Thank you. So we have a consensus for position 30, the ex officio member, Eric Wolf. Position 31, we need 3 structural engineers. At this time, I recommend Kevin Moore, Gwyneth Searer, and I'd like to recommend as the 3rd member, Yihao Clark Shen, as he is a licensed structural engineer. I believe the other candidate that we had is not a licensed structural engineer. Commissioner Klaus Bruckner.
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson.
And I'm sorry, can you repeat your recommendation?
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is for the item 31, 3 structural engineers. You need to be a licensed structural engineer to hold this position. I was recommending Kevin Moore and Gwyneth Searer. And I was also suggesting, since we did not have a 3rd member with a structural license, was to take one of the candidates from local government building official, Yihao Clark Shen, who is a licensed structural engineer, and put him in that position, if that makes sense.
I got it now. Yes. Thank you. I agree with that. I concur.
Thank you, and thanks for asking me to clarify. I went a little fast on that one. Commissioner Santillan?
Yes, I agree.
Commissioner Sasaki?
Agree.
Thank you. So we have a consensus for position 31, which is 3 structural engineers. We have Kevin Moore, Gwyneth Searer, and Yihao Clark Shen. For position 32, architect, I recommend Gary McGavin. Commissioner Klaus Bruckner.
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson.
I had Steve Winkle for that position. I know we just put him on the previous committee, but I had him here as well.
Okay. Commissioner Santillan.
I agree with Gary McGavin.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Gary McGavin.
So we have 2 candidates potentially for architect position. I'd like to open up for discussion. Both are excellent candidates, by the way.
So this is Commissioner Mickelson. I would just say that one thing that I considered, other than Mr. Winkle's broad knowledge of the code, which is amazingly comprehensive, that he is also a civil engineer. And so I thought there was an additional benefit there. I am flexible. Mr. McGavin was my second choice.
Thank you for that. You're right. Mr. Winkle is a registered civil engineer as well as an architect. Is there other discussion? Seeing none, is there a suggestion from one of my subcommittee members as to who we should choose for a consensus candidate?
Gary McGavin.
Okay. Commissioner Santillan suggests Gary McGavin. Is there any other comment on that? If not, may I suggest that Gary McGavin be our candidate for the architect position on structural design lateral force? Is there a consensus for that?
Is Commissioner Mickelson? I can agree with that.
Thank you, sir. So we
Agreed.
have a consensus for recommendation for position 32, architect, as Gary McGavin. Moving to position 33, general contractor. My recommendation is John Oglesby. Commissioner Klausbrecher,
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson,
Agreed?
Commissioner Santillan,
Agree?
Commissioner Sasaki.
Agree.
Thank you. So we have consensus for position 33, general contractor, John Oglesby. Position 34, local government building official. At this point, I'd like to recommend R. Sargazian. Commissioner Klausbrecher.
I have Sharon going, but I'm open to Ara Sargsyan as well.
At this point, the reason I suggested R. Sargazian for this position was I was going to recommend Sharon Goey for the public member position.
Oh, okay.
But I'm open to moving it around.
I can see that. That's fine.
Commissioner Mickelson, your suggestions?
I also had Sharon Goy, and I had Homer Mael for the public member. So I wanted to find a way for both of them, who are both incumbents as well, to be serving. So my suggestion is Sharon Goy, who's the Milpitas Building Safety Director.
Commissioner Santillan.
I also had the same comments, but you've clarified that there's a recommendation for Mrs. Sharon Goy on another committee. So I would support Ara Sargassian for the local government building official.
Commissioner Sasaki.
The same as what was stated by Commissioner Santillan.
Okay, so we have a little bit of a discussion here. We have a couple of great candidates for local government building official. Sharon Goey, who was the incumbent and did an excellent job as on the committee before. And my recommendation was to move her to public member. So I was suggesting Ara Sargazian as the other member. Is there further discussion?
Is Commissioner Mickelson, Ara Sargsyan, I guess is the pronunciation, is very qualified. So I can support that name for 34.
Thank you. So do we have a consensus then for item 34, local government building official as Ara Sargazian?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you. Then moving to item 35, public member, I would suggest Sharon Goey. Commissioner Klausbrecher,
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson,
Agreed?
Commissioner Santillan,
I agree.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Agree.
Thank you, everyone. So our recommendations for the structural design lateral force, oh, I'm sorry. And we had a position of chair, I apologize, that we needed to fill. My recommendation for chair would be Sharon Goey. Commissioner Klausbrecher,
Yes.
Commissioner Mickelson,
Agreed.
Commissioner Santillan,
Agreed.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Agree.
Thank you. So to recap, for our structural design lateral force code advisory committee recommendations are for position 30 ex officio Eric Wolf, for position 31 3 structural engineers Kevin Moore, Gwyneth Searer, and Yihao Clark Shen, for position 32 architect Gary McGavin, for position 33 general contractor John Oglesby, for position 34 local government building official Ara Sargazian, and for position 35 public member Sharon Goey, and for chair Sharon Goey. So with that, I'd like to open it up for the phones. So we'd like to go to the phones to hear from the public. If you'd please like to identify yourself and please clearly state your name and who you represent. Barbara, could you please check the phone for commenters on agenda item 2D?
Lori, are you there? Lori, do we have our moderator on the phone?
Yes, and on the phone for public comments, you may press 1 and then 0. We will go to the line of Eileen Owens in 1 moment. Please go ahead with your comment.
Hello, my name is Ellen Owens, and I am with the University of California Office of the President, Design and Construction. And I want to thank the members of the commission today for being so thorough about finding members for these really important committees. And the University of California wanted to affirm its support of Eric Wolf for the ex officio member. He's with UC San Diego, and he's the director of engineering, and he's a previous committee member. So we support his application, and thank you for recommending him.
Thank you.
Once again, you may press 1 and then 0 for any public comments. We will go to the line of Bob Raymer. Please go ahead.
Thank you. This is Bob Raymer with the California Building Industry Association, and we support all of these nominees, especially John Oglesby. And it's great to see Sharon Goy get on the committee. Worked with her in the past, and she'll be an excellent chair. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'm showing no further public comment. Please continue.
Thank you. That concludes the public comment portion. I will turn it back over to the Code Adoption Subcommittee and entertain a motion at this time to consider the nominations that have been presented.
Commissioner Santillan, I make a motion that we accept the nominees as reviewed here by the committee for the
Thank you. Do I have a
structural
second?
design lateral.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Commissioner Mickelson, second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that the nominations as presented are recommendations to move forward and approved. Is there any further discussion from the committee regarding this motion? Hearing none, we will now have a roll call vote. Commissioners in favor, please indicate by stating aye. Those opposed, please indicate by stating no. And if you are abstaining, please state this as well. Mike, would you please call the roll call vote?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Klaus Bruckner,
Aye.
Commissioner Mickelson,
Aye.
Commissioner Sasaki,
Aye.
and Commissioner Santian.
Aye.
Thank you. It's unanimous.
Thank you, Mike. Before we go on to item 2E, does anybody need a break, Mike, or are we good?
I need a break.
Okay. Thank you for being honest.
15,
How long a break should we take, Mike?
15 minutes, say?
Will 15 minutes work for the committee?
Yes, it will. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We'll see you back. It's 10:45 now, so we'll see you back at 11 o'clock. Thank you.
To our phone moderator, I'm just going to mute. phone line. I think we're gonna resume here in just a second.
Yeah, I think we're going to get started up here again in a minute.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Just let me know when we're ready to go.
Okay, we'll do it.
Is our phone moderator on the line?
And your phone lines are still connected.
Great, thank you. And then our captioning, is our captioner back from break? Natasha?
I'm here.
Great, thank you. I think we're
Yeah.
set.
What do you have?
Good to go. I think we're ready to go, Raj.
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Santillan. I just want to let everyone know that 11:30, I have to fall off the call. Something's come up and I have to log off. So I will log back on. If the committee is obviously still going on, you may break for lunch, but I will do my best to get back on as soon as I can. Just want to let everybody know.
Thank you for letting me know, and I promise we'll go as quick as we can. Hopefully we'll be done by 11:30. With that, I'd like to reconvene the meeting if that's okay with everyone. At this time, let us move to item 2E of the agenda. Agenda item 2E is Health Facilities Code Advisory Committee. At this time, I'd like to remind the public who are on the phone and wish to speak on item 2E, Health Facilities Code Advisory Committee, to put yourself in the queue now by pressing 1 and then 0. This item is now open for subcommittee discussion. Individually, as we've been doing, we'll give our recommendations for each position, and then we will discuss, including recommending a position for chair. So with that, I'd like to start for position 36, the ex officio members of the Health Facilities Code Advisory Committee. I'd like to recommend Dana Johnson and Carol Bartolo Loeffler. Commissioner Klausbrecher?
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson?
I agree with Carol Bartolo Loeffler. Dana Johnson had no resume or support letters or any other information, so I have no basis on which to select him. So I would say no on that one. But if we wanted to have a second ex officio member, I was going to suggest Janice Chung, who applied for position 43 here, but can't be in that role because she works for UC. So I thought she would be ideal for ex officio.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Santillan?
I agree with the recommendation, and I'm curious when the lady from UC Office of the President has been calling in. Hopefully she'll chime in and provide us some more information on the recommendation. So for now, I agree with the recommendation.
Commissioner Sasaki?
Same comments as Commissioner Santillan.
Yeah, I would also concur that Dana Johnson didn't provide a resume. I know we require a resume for all the applications, and maybe this is the point of order. I wasn't sure if ex officio members needed to just provide the fact that they were part of the group since they're non-voting, or did they actually have to provide a resume?
Yeah, all the positions required the same background information.
Thanks, man.
Okay, so with that in mind, then I would change my recommendation and go with Carol Bartolo Loeffler and Janice Chung, seeing as she has submitted an application and a resume. But I concede with what Commissioner Santillan says. I'd also like to hear if there is a caller on the phone that has a recommendation one way or the other. That would be helpful. So at this point, do I see a consensus? Would you guys agree to go with Carol Bartolo Loeffler and Janice Chung?
I have,
further conversations from the public?
yeah, I have no, this is Commissioner Klausbrecher. I have no issue with that. I think sometimes applicants that have been on the committees over and over again sometimes assume that we have their application since they're incumbent on file. So, but but I can see that point. So especially for new building standard commission members that are on the committee, they may not have all the previous year's resumes and all that.
Agreed. Any further discussion? Okay, so for now, our recommendations for ex officio members, which is item 36, would be Carol Bartolo Loeffler and Janice Chung. Moving to item 37, acute care hospital representative. My recommendation would be Bill Zelmer. Commissioner Klausbrucker?
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson?
Agreed.
Commissioner Santillan?
Agreed.
Commissioner Sasaki?
Agree.
Thank you. So for position 17, acute care hospital representative, our recommendation is Bill Zelmer. For position 38, skilled nursing facility representative, we only had Bill Zelmer as an applicant, so I have no recommendation. Commissioner Klausbrucker?
I would suggest leaving it open, and I'm not one to start making calls that I don't have enough connections there, but somebody else on the commission has connections if they can make some calls and see if there's anything available.
Appreciate that. Commissioner Mickelson?
I had no suggestion for that position. I sifted through the other people to see if we could move somebody from elsewhere. They had nursing facility specific experience, but did not find any. So vacant for now, I guess.
Commissioner Santillan?
Yeah, I have no comments as well.
Commissioner Sasaki?
No comment.
Okay, so at this point, for position 38, skilled nursing facility representative, our recommendation is to leave it vacant. Moving to position 39, architect. My recommendation is David Field. Commissioner Klausbrucker?
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson?
Agreed.
Commissioner Santillan?
Agreed.
Commissioner Sasaki?
Agree.
Thank you. So for position 39, architect, our recommendation is David Field. For position 40, general contractor, my recommendation is Renee Amy. Commissioner Klausbrucker?
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson?
Agreed.
Commissioner Santillan?
Agreed.
Commissioner Sasaki?
Agree.
Thank you. So our recommendation for position 40, general contractor, is Renee Amy. For position 41, mechanical engineer, my recommendation is Sudhir Kumar Agrawal. Commissioner Klausbrucker?
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson?
Agreed.
Commissioner Santillan?
Agreed.
Commissioner Sasaki?
Agree.
Thank you. So our recommendation for position 41, mechanical engineer, is Sudhir Kumar Agrawal. For position 42, electrical engineer or inspector, we had no applicants and I have no recommendations at this time.
Chair, can I interject here?
Yes, please.
This is Mike with Building Standards. We realized we had no applicants for this position at the time. And in looking at the other applicants, we found that Mike Stone and Ron Takaguchi both could apply for this position or could qualify or did qualify for this position. So what I did is I reached out and I talked to Mike Stone and he said, I absolutely could help out with that if you guys need it. So we thank him for being willing to provide himself for that position. So if you wanted to select somebody, Mike did say that he'd be willing to serve in that role. Did not get a response from Ron to do the same. So that's where we stand on that one.
Well, I appreciate that very much from staff. With that being the case, I would absolutely recommend Mike Stone for position 42, electrical engineer inspector. He's very familiar with the electrical requirements for health facilities. I think he'd be a great member to the committee. So I would recommend Mike Stone. Commissioner Klausbrucker?
I agree. In looking at his resume, he has quite a bit of background in electrical.
Commissioner Mickelton?
I agree. I was going to suggest we reach out to him. So I appreciate that staff already did it. So I agree.
Thank you.
Commissioner Santillan?
Appreciate the staff's work, and I also agree to support Mike Stone for this position.
Thank you. Commissioner Sasaki?
Agree.
Thank you. Then we have consensus. And that's great. So position 42, electrical engineer or inspector. We'd like to recommend Mike Stone. And thank you, Mike, if you're listening, for volunteering. Position 43, fire protection engineer. My recommendation would be Cheryl Domnich. Commissioner Klaus Buckner?
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelton?
Agreed.
Commissioner Santillan?
Agree.
Commissioner Sasaki?
Agree.
Thank you. So our consensus for position 43, fire protection engineer, is Cheryl Domnich. For position 44, local government building official, I recommend Sharon Goey. Commissioner Klaus Buckner?
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelton?
Agreed.
Commissioner Santillan?
Agree.
Commissioner Sasaki?
Agree.
Thank you. So our consensus recommendation for position 44, local government building official, is Sharon Goey. For position 45, primary care or specialty clinic rep, we do not have an application, so I don't have a recommendation. Commissioner Klaus Buckner.
Before we do that, I'm hoping that the staff have contact.
Mike, are you going to be able to save the day on this one?
Unfortunately, no, this is kind of a tricky one to get because it's such a specialized position. One thing I would say that we kind of discussed when we were looking at this was the fact that Bill Zelmer has been selected for the acute care position. He actually was the one you can see who applied for the other position. So he has knowledge in those positions and working with the hospital safety board a lot and Sutter, he's very qualified. So while I see some vacancies, I'm not sure how to fill them other than to hope that Bill can lend his expertise in those areas if there are issues during the meeting.
I would agree. Bill Zelmer's been terrific, and he does fit into like at least 4 of the categories that we have here. And hopefully, if anyone's watching this, they'll call in and hopefully they'll volunteer because we definitely have a vacancy.
It would be helpful because the other concern is with 2 vacancies on a small committee, if somebody can't make it, we start getting close to our quorum requirements. So we really want to make sure we have enough membership to keep our quorum.
Excellent point.
Agree to leave it open at this time, hoping there are new applicants.
Okay, Commissioner Mickelton?
I had nobody to suggest for that. I agree we leave it vacant for the moment. And as I understand, even though we have this round of appointments that are happening, that for vacant positions, we can receive applications and fill spots over time. So that's something that we can ask staff to help work on as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. Commissioner Santillan?
I agree to leave it open.
Commissioner Sasaki?
No comment.
Thank you. So consensus is for position 45, primary care or specialty clinic representative. We leave it vacant for the time being. And now we come to the position of chair. I'd like to recommend as chair of the Health Facilities Code Advisory Committee, Bill Zelmer. Commissioner Klaus Buckner.
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelton.
Agreed.
Commissioner Santillan.
Agreed.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Agree.
Thank you. So summarizing what we've come up with for Health Facilities Code Advisory Committee, for position 36, ex officio, we have Carol Bartolo Loeffler and Janice Chung. For position 37, acute care hospital rep, we have Bill Zelmer. for for position 38, skilled nursing facility rep, vacant. For position 39, architect, we have David Field. For position 40, general contractor, we have Renee Amy. For position 41, mechanical engineer, we have Sudhir Kumar Agrawal. For position 42, electrical engineer or inspector, we have Mike Stone. For position 43, fire protection engineer, we have Cheryl Domnich. For position 44, local government building official, we have Sharon Goey. And for position 45, primary care or specialty clinic representative, we're leaving that vacant. And the chair of this committee we're recommending as Bill Zelmer. So now we'd like to go to the phones to hear from the public. If you would like to identify yourself, please clearly state your name and who you represent. Barbara, if you'd please check the phone lines for us for commenters on agenda item 2E. Thank you.
Yes, and if you would like to queue up on the phone, please press 1, then 0 on your telephone keypad. We have public comment from the line of Mike Stone. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Mike Stone, I'm with the National Electrical Manufacturers Association. And Michael Newman asked me to be on this call just in case you did have any questions on my qualifications. And just to clarify, I am a certified electrical inspector, as well as 6 other ICC certifications. And I have an extensive electrical background, which is detailed on my resume there. And if you do have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And I really appreciate your recommendation, and I look forward to serving on the committee. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Actually, we appreciate you stepping in. Thank you, Mike.
You bet.
Thank you. And we have public comment from the line of Ellen Owens. Ellen, the line is open. Please go ahead.
Thank you. This is Ellen Owens with the University of California Office of the President. We do think all these candidates are qualified. And I would like to speak on behalf of Dana Johnson. First, I want to apologize of our omission of a resume. Dana has been on the committee for the past 2 code cycles, and I believe did not realize the importance of submitting a resume. But I'll give you a little bit about his background, hoping that perhaps, since you are still looking for members, that you can find an appropriate position for him. We do also believe that Janice Chung would make a good member for UCSF. Mr. Johnson has been the fire marshal at UCLA for 28 years. He is also certified and recognized by the Office of the State Fire Marshal to be a designated fire marshal on UC campuses to represent the Office of the State Fire Marshal, as well as recognized by the Office of State Hospitals, OSHPOD. He is moving on from his position as the Chief Fire Marshal at UCLA to become the head of our Center of Excellence for OSHPOD. It's a new effort by the UC system to mirror what we've been doing with the State Fire Marshal and bring in cadets and get them the training so that they can represent OSHPOD on our campuses and allow OSHPOD to direct some of their energies to non-state agencies, and so that we have candidates who can act in their behalf. So again, I apologize. He was in the midst of building this new program and did not submit all the required materials. We'd be happy to follow up with something if you can find a way to include him again for this code cycle on this committee. I'm happy to take any questions.
This is Commissioner Sasaki. It sounds like Dana has a tremendous amount of experience and served in the last 2 code cycles. So I guess my thoughts would be that we put him back as an ex officio. He did list this as his first choice. So instead of Who's the person beside
Janice Chung.
Janice? So to substitute or replace Janice with Dana. That would be my suggestion. We can go forward with other public comment.
Carol, thank you so much for calling, and thank you for giving us that information. It's very, very helpful.
If we were to do that, my suggestion is to put Janice Chung in item 43, because we've already selected, I believe, Cheryl Dominich for another position.
I think the challenge with that, Ellie, is that Janice is not qualified to be the fire protection engineer because she's working for the UCs now. So she can only be an ex officio.
Okay, got it. Yeah, the other suggestion might be to leave it as it is and have Dana Johnson submit his resume for the Maine Building Standards Commission meeting, since we have time to address this there as well. I don't know what the staff thinks of that, or if there was a hard deadline for that resume.
This is Commissioner Mixton. Maybe I have some ideas on this. Maybe we can come back to the discussion after we hear the rest of the public comment.
Very good. Let's continue with the public comment then, please.
If you have additional public comment, please press 1, then 0. Again, for additional public comment, you may press 1, then 0. We have a public comment from the line of Ellen Owens. We have your line open. Please go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you to the committee for recognizing Mr. Johnson's experience and looking for a way to perhaps include him. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen.
We have no additional public comment at this time. Please continue.
So that concludes the public comment period. I will now turn it back over to the Code Adoption Subcommittee for discussion. Commissioner Mickelton, you had a suggestion.
Yes, thank you. I was thinking that since the ex officio, we were shooting for 2 so that we don't exceed that as we have in the past and make a committee unmanageable. Here, I feel like we have 3 good people, and it's very helpful to hear, even though Dana Johnson is an incumbent, I simply didn't know anything about him. So hearing that information, it's clear he's quite qualified. So I would suggest that we add him to the ex officio, and so that the HF committee has enough people on it that it won't affect the the quorum for voting, obviously, but just for participation, that we have Dana Johnson, Carol Botola Leffler, and Janice Chung all as ex officio.
This is Commissioner Klaus Bruckner. I think that's a great idea, given the size of this advisory committee, that it still will be a manageable committee with 3 ex officios. That's a great idea.
So from what I hear is the suggestion is that we, for this particular committee only because there's so few members, we allow 3 ex officio members, which I would support. It doesn't really help Mike's concern with the quorum because they're non-voting members, but I'm happy to have 3 on the committee if the rest of the commissioners feel the same way.
Mike, how many do we need for a quorum on these committees?
Well, I think as long as we don't drop 2 additional voting members, we should have a quorum for the voting members. So I think we're safe. But I do like the suggested additional member, simply for the fact that we won't have as many members because a couple of vacancies. So that makes it more of a complete committee. And the experience level of the ex officios is really helpful to the committee. So I think having 3 is fine in this case.
That's good. And I will say that both Dana Johnson and Carl Newith from UCLA, who's the building official, have been very active in the Southern California area. They're both very, very knowledgeable. So
I
with
would also
that,
support the recommendation from our Commissioner Mickelson.
okay. So do I hear consensus then for the ex officio that we include all three, Dana Johnson, Carol Bartolo Loeffler, and Janice Chung?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on this item? Okay, just to clarify, I will reread, before a motion's made, I will reread what we have for the Health Facility Code Advisory Committee. For position 36, ex officio, we have Dana Johnson, Carol Bartolo Loeffler, and Janice Chung. For position 37, acute care hospital rep, we have Bill Zelmer. For position 38, skilled nursing facility rep, it's vacant. Position 39, architect, David Field. Position 40, general contractor, Renee Amy. Position 41, mechanical engineer, Sudhir Kumar Agrawal. Position 42, electrical engineer or inspector, we have Mike Stone. Position 43, fire protection engineer, Cheryl Domnich. Position 44, local government building official, Sharon Goey. And position 45, primary care or specialty clinic representative, vacant. And our recommended chair is Bill Zelmer. So with that, I'd like to entertain a motion at this time to consider the nominations that have been presented.
Commissioner Santillan, motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded that we approve the nominations as presented. Is there any further discussion from the committee regarding this motion? Hearing none, we will now have a roll call vote. Commissioners in favor, please indicate by stating aye. Those opposed, please indicate by stating no. And if abstaining, please state this as well. Mike, would you please call the roll call vote?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Klausbrecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Mickelson,
Aye.
Commissioner Sasaki,
Aye.
and Commissioner Santian.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Santiano, do you need to go now?
Yes, this is a good time for me to log off. And so again, I will do my best to get back on as quickly as I can. Otherwise, thank you very much. Staff did a great job, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you for
Everyone be
your
safe.
participation. We appreciate it. So at this time, we'll move on to item 2F, which is our final Code Advisory Committee. It is the Green Code Advisory Committee. So at this time, I'd like to remind the public who are on the phone and wish to speak on item 2F, the Green Code Advisory Committee, to put yourself in the queue now by pressing 1 and then 0. This item is now open for subcommittee discussion. Once again, individually, we will give our recommendations for each position and the chair, and then we will have our discussion. So with that in mind, I will start. Position 46, the ex officio member for the Green Code Advisory Committee. I'd recommend Ellen Owens and Dana Papke Waters. Commissioner Klausbrecher.
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson.
Agreed.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Agree.
Thank you. So for position 46 ex officio, we have Ellen Owens and Dana Papke Waters. For position 47, residential construction industry representative, I'd like to recommend Dave Walls. Commissioner Klausbrecher.
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson.
Agreed.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Agree.
Thank you. So for position 47, residential construction industry representative, we're recommending Dave Walls. For position 48, commercial building industry representative, I'd like to recommend Robert Raymer. Commissioner Klausbrecher.
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson.
I was going to suggest that he actually be public member and that Judy Schweitzer be selected for the slot 48. So that's how I rank them.
Okay. Just so the rest of the committee knows, I was planning on proposing Wes Sullins from the USGBC as my public member representative. But let's move on to Commissioner Sasaki.
Bob Raymer.
Okay, so we have two different candidates for this position. I'd like to open up for discussion.
There's Commissioner Mickelton, I'll just add that I think Wes Sullins definitely needs to be in this advisory committee. He's very active, very knowledgeable for a very long time. I had him for environmental organization rep. And then, like I said, Judy Schweitzer, who is an incumbent and a green consultant and worked a lot on the development of Cal Green as the commercial building industry rep. And in order to be able to have her participate, I had relocated Robert Raymer, who's also an incumbent and extremely and broadly knowledgeable, to public member.
Okay, it's funny, they're all great. They're all great picks. I had my thought was to have Robert Raymer as the commercial building industry rep as he is CBIA, and then have Michael Stone be the environmental organizational rep for the similar reasons that I wanted him on the PEME committee, is just his expertise in electrical at a time when I think it's important with the green features that are coming out. And then I was going to have Wes Sullins as my public member. So that was my thought.
I recognize that Mike Stone has the NEMA affiliation and expertise, and he was my number 2 for electrical engineer slot because of that for number 55, along with Ron Takaguchi, who I had as number 1, who also has that background and is the Burbank Community Development Director or Assistant Community Development Director.
Yeah, one thing, since we're kind of talking about the whole list, is for item 55, I just want to note to the committee that Ron Takaguchi is listed as rank 4, but he actually was rank 2. And he would have been my pick as well for the electrical engineering inspector or energy building performance specialist. Any other thoughts? So right now we're discussing position 48, commercial building industry representative. And so
May I, if I may interrupt, can we take a holistic look at this about the order that Commissioner Patel has versus order that Commissioner Mickelton has? Can we repeat that for the individual positions?
Of course, I can go first. For position 48, commercial building industry representative, I was suggesting Robert Raymer. For position 50, environmental organization rep, I was proposing Michael Stone. For position 52, public member, I was suggesting Wes Sullins. And then for position 55, the electrical engineer, inspector, or energy building performance specialist, I was recommending Ron Takaguchi.
What about position 54?
54, mechanical engineer or energy building performance specialist, I was recommending Stephen Taylor, who's a PE from Alameda.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Mickelton?
Right. So I had Judy Schweitzer, who's an incumbent green consultant and Cal Green developer, participated in the development of it for number 48. And she didn't have a slot on any of the other committees. I felt like she was valuable to keep on somewhere here. And then I had for 52, for 50, I had Wes Sullins. For 52, I had Bob Raymer. And for 54, I had William Allen, although Stephen Taylor, that Commissioner Patel suggested, is a close second. William Allen has a lot of good research, applied research background, so I edged him over Mr. Taylor. And then finally for 55, I had Ron Takaguchi, who is also an incumbent and the Burbank Assistant Community Development Director. I recognize the expertise of Michael Stone. We did select him for the electrical engineer position 42 on health facilities. So he's still participating. And I would basically, I guess the bottom line of all of this is I was trying to find a spot for Judy Schweitzer as well.
Yeah, and I think where we got just slightly off track was Robert Raymer didn't apply for the 52 position, so I wasn't really considering that at the time. The Commissioner Mickelton was being a little more creative than me. But I do also know that Robert Raymer called in, and one of his comments on a previous call was that his first choice was really to be the commercial building industry rep on the Green Code Advisory Group, our committee.
That's true. Thank you for pointing that out. So I can support him on that. I think that's a good point.
Okay.
On 48.
I very much appreciate that, Commissioner Mickelton. So
And I would,
go ahead, Commissioner Klausbecker. I'm sorry.
The other comment I would make is Michael Stone jumped in and volunteered for a position he never applied for. So I kind of don't want to discourage him by taking away his true application for the green. For that reason, I would prefer to keep Michael Stone on under 50.
So then do I hear a consensus on position 48, commercial building industry rep as Robert Raymer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, commissioners.
And I would just, before we move on, just that regarding Michael Stone, his priority rank, number 1 was for plumbing, electrical, mechanical, and energy. And I think, yes, we did place him on that.
Yes.
So just trying to give some acknowledgement of people's first choice.
Good point. Good point.
Okay, so with all that, I'm going to move, if it's okay with commissioners, to position 49, architect. And my recommendation would be Robert Crawford, Commissioner Klausbecker,
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelton.
I recommend Sharon Refabum, who has a lot of experience in green building, supported by the California AIA strongly. I know, I don't know if they're on the phone, and then was also the chair of the AIA's Committee on the Environment, and she has a tremendous involvement for many years in sustainable building.
And she was absolutely my, I didn't really have a 1 and 2. It was between Robert and Sharon were my 1 and my 1. So I'd be willing to say Sharon Ruffin as well. Commissioner Sasaki?
Sharon Ruffin.
Commissioner Klausbecker, I'm sorry, did I skip you?
They're both great candidates. I looked at their resume, so I have no objection, and I defer to your expertise on that.
Okay, then may I suggest as consensus that we choose as a recommendation for 49 architect Sharon Reftham.
Agreed.
That's okay with the group? All right, thank you. Then we'll move to position 50, environmental organizational representative. My recommendation was Michael Stone. Commissioner Klausbacher?
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson?
I agree, as long as we all agree on, as Commissioner Patel suggested, West Sullins for 52. I think that's a good pairing.
Commissioner Sasaki?
Same comments as Commissioner Mickelson.
Very good then. So for position 50, our recommendation will be Michael Stone. Position 51, local government building official. My recommendation is Osama Yunan. Commissioner Klausbacher?
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson?
Agreed.
Commissioner Sasaki?
Agree.
Thank you. So our recommendation for local government building official is Osama Yunan. For position 52, public member, and we had some discussion on this, I would recommend Wes Sullins. Commissioner Klausbacher?
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson?
Agreed.
Commissioner Sasaki?
Agree.
Thank you. So for position 52, public member or local water, our recommendation is Wes Sullins. For position 53, fire official, we had no candidates, so I don't have a recommendation at this time. Mike, do you know of anything?
No, again, these were the positions I included when I contacted the three fire officials who did apply for VFO. I gave them all the committees I had rules and asked that they, consider being selected for those. So didn't hear back other than from Mike on the electrical.
This is Commissioner Klaus Brickner. I'll start knocking on doors.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Mickelson?
So I was just going to suggest that I didn't have somebody from this set of applications for the Green CAC, but I was going to suggest contacting Randy Metz of the Carlsbad Building Department, Fire Department. That's all.
As I said, this is Commissioner Klaus Brickner. As I said, he was really interested in the building fire code official position more so.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Sasaki?
No comment.
Okay, thank you. So for the time being, for position 53 fire official, we'll leave that vacant. Position 54, mechanical engineer or energy building performance specialist. My recommendation would be Stephen Taylor. Commissioner Klaus Bruckner?
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson?
Agreed.
Commissioner Sasaki?
Agree.
Thank you. So our recommendation for position 54, mechanical engineer or energy building performance specialist is Stephen Taylor. Position 55, electrical engineering inspector or energy building performance specialist. My recommendation would be Ron Takaguchi. Commissioner Klausbacher?
Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson?
Agreed.
Commissioner Sasaki?
Agree.
And my recommendation for chair for this particular committee was going to be Osama Yunan. Commissioner Klausbacher?
No objections. Agreed.
Commissioner Mickelson?
Agreed.
Commissioner Sasaki?
Agree.
Thank you, everyone. So to recap, for Green Code Advisory Committee, position 46, we have Ellen Owens and Dana Papke Waters. For position 47, Residential Construction Industry Representative, we have Dave Walls. For position 48, Commercial Building Industry Representative, we have Robert Raymer. For position 49, Architect, we have Sharon Reftham. For position 50, Environmental Organizational Representative, we have Michael Stone. For position 51, Local Government Building Official, we have Osama Yunan. For position 52, Public Member or Local Water, we have Wes Sullins. For position 53, Fire Official, we have vacant. For position 54, Mechanical Engineer or Energy Building Performance Specialist, we have Stephen Taylor. And for position 55, Electrical Engineering Inspector or Energy Building Performance Specialist, we have Ron Takaguchi. And for Chair, we have Osama Yunan. And so with that, we'll go to the phones to hear from the public. If you would like to identify yourself, please clearly state your name and who you represent. Barbara, if you could please check the phone for commenters on agenda item 2F. Thank you.
Thank you. If you would like to queue up for public comments, please press 1, then 0 on the telephone keypad. We'll go to the line of Mark Christian. Please go ahead. The line is open.
Thank you. Committee members, Mark Christian with the American Institute of Architects, California, in support of architect the nomination of Sharon Reftham. This is not a comment on Mr. Robert Crawford. Unfortunately, we were not aware of his application in time to have a conversation with him, but we asked Sharon to apply, and she has. The reason why we asked is not only is she individually interested and knowledgeable of green building issues, this is an area where she has legitimate passion. She's also a member of a group of very active architects who have the same passion, the high performance of buildings, environmental performance of buildings, which she can go to help her represent the architectural profession on this code advisory committee. For that reason, we strongly support her application. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public comment from the line of Ellen Owens. Please go ahead. The line is open.
Hello, commissioners. Thank you again for all the time you spent today on this task. I know it's complicated, and I wanted to reiterate the support of the University of California for all our nominees, including myself for the Green Building Committee. I know my resume was submitted. If you have any questions about my background, please let me know. But I did want to say thank you for considering all the candidates we've suggested today.
Thank you, Ellen, for your participation. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. And our next public comment from the line of Bob Raymer. Please go ahead. The line is open.
Thank you. I'm Bob Raymer with the California Building Industry Association. And once again, we're very supportive of the proposed nominees, especially Osama Yunan as the chair. He's been hard at work on that committee for just years and years, and he'll make a great chair. I'd also like to indicate our strongest support for Michael Stone. As I indicated earlier, you've got the Energy Commission that's strongly pushing all electric homes and all electric commercial buildings. Air Resources Board is aggressively, of course, pursuing electric vehicle charging and installation. And we've got a host of agencies, of course, supporting solar on the roof and batteries in the garage. And so that electrical panel within just the next 3 to 4 years is really going to get a workout. And so it's great to have somebody on that committee that off the top of their head is going to be able to provide some professional advice. So once again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
We have public comment from the line of Wes Sullins. Please go ahead. The line is open.
Yes, thank you. Hello, commissioners. Thanks for your time today. And I'm with the U.S. Green Building Council, and we are very supportive of your nominees as well. I'd be honored to serve, and I'm very supportive of the slate you put together. I've worked on the development of Calgary for many years, and in my professional career, I've worked as a private sector in consulting and energy work, as well as public sector, and now I'm at the U.S. Green Building Council as a nonprofit, so I'd be happy to participate in this code development process, and I'm here if you have any questions for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wes. We respect your expertise.
If there is additional public comment, you may press 1, then 0 on your telephone keypad. Thank you. I have no additional public comment at this time. Please continue.
Thank you. So that would conclude the public comment portion. I'll now turn it back over to the Code Adoption Subcommittee and entertain a motion at this time to consider the nominations as they've been presented.
Commissioner Sasaki moved to approve the list of nominees.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Mickelton, second.
Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded that we approve the nominations as presented. Is there any further discussion from the committee regarding this motion? Hearing none, we will now have a roll call vote. Commissioners in favor, please indicate by stating aye. Those opposed, please indicate by stating no. And if abstaining, please state this as well. Mike, if you'd please call for the roll call vote.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Klaus-Bruckner,
Aye.
Commissioner Mickelton,
Aye.
Commissioner Sasaki,
Aye.
and Commissioner Santian. I know he stepped out, so we'll leave him as a non-voting member.
Thank you, Mike. So at this point, I wish to thank all the subcommittee members for making the time to review each of the applications. I know it was a tremendous job, and obviously you've gone through it by your comments, so I really, really appreciate your participation on that. I also want to thank the applicants and the public for their input and assisting us in coming to a consensus on our Code Advisory Committee recommendations, which will be presented to the Commission in February. So with that, I'd like to move on to item 3 of the agenda. Item 3 are comments from the public on issues not on this agenda. The committee may receive comments from the public on matters not on the agenda and briefly discussed or placed on a subsequent agenda. No action may be taken by the committee on items raised during this agenda item. Does the public have comments for the subcommittee on items not on this agenda? Barbara, if you'd please check the phones one last time for any comments.
If you would like to queue up on the phone, please press 1, then 0 on the telephone keypad. We have public comment from the line of Bob Raymer. Please go ahead. The line is open.
Thank you. This is Bob Raymer with the California Building Industry Association. And I'd just like to say that we look forward to working with Mia and Michael on perhaps a few updates to Part 1, possibly allowing for alternatives to serve on committees. I've noticed over the years that on numerous occasions we'll have individuals end up absent, but somebody very close to them will be out in the audience. And so it'd be, that might be one possibility. There's some other areas, but we look forward to working with Michael and Mia on this. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
I have no additional public comment at this time. Please go ahead. Please continue.
Thank you. And with that, I just want to special thanks to the staff for putting together all of this work. I really appreciated the way everything was organized. Barbara, Pamela, Mike, and Mia, and everyone else that was involved. Thank you for taking the time to make it easy for us. We really appreciate it. And with that, I'd like to go to the next agenda item, unless there's any comments from any of the other commissioners at this point.
I just wanted to thank the staff. This is Commissioner Klaus-Bruckner. Oh my God. This is quite a task, getting everything organized and put together for us commissioners, and makes our lives certainly easier.
And it truly gets better every year. So thank you for that.
Yeah, Commissioner Sasaki, same sentiments. Great job, staff. And then Raj, great job. Yes. I was a little scared looking at
here.
Having this be my first code advisory committee nominations thing, I was like anticipating a very lengthy, long process, but I mean, we were detailed and thorough, but you ran the meeting extraordinarily well. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, with your help and Commissioner Mickelson being on the commission now, hopefully you'll stay on the committee for the future.
Yes.
Please
But
do.
your guys' help in going through those applications made it easy. So thank you for that.
Excellent.
Okay, well then let's go on to the next agenda item, which is adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
This is Commissioner Mickelson, I move to adjourn.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded that we adjourn the meeting. All those in favor can just raise their hand.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you all. And that concludes the meeting. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Take care.
Thank you, Mike and Mia.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Not made it easy. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Take care.
Okay, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.